everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. I am Mr. Warren Hayes, and this is the place where we are going to talk about professional wrestling for a while, right here on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes and on your favorite podcast application. Hope you are enjoying your week so far. It is February 4th, 2026, and you are either watching this on YouTube or listening to this on an app for podcasts. So listen, a 5-star review on Apple Podcast, a 5-star rating on Spotify, those things would help out tremendously, as would a like on this video as well if you're just getting into it right now. That would be greatly appreciated. It does help carve a little niche out for this little niche podcast that is part of an entertainment niche. It's a niche within a niche within a niche. It's nicheception. Oh my God. So we got a show once again, kind of like last week, full of little interesting topics going around. We've got look, of course, we are going to be talking about AJ Styles and his retirement. We're going to go over Tomasso Ciampa's debut and subsequent immediate win of the TNT Championship on his first night, and kind of talk about Collision and whatnot. And you know, TKO, the McMahons, we got a whole bunch of stuff, and we even have some really, I kept in a really great bit of conversation that I have with the live chat as well. And you know, I usually cut those out because, not because it's not fun. It's just like a lot of times when you're not in the moment, when you're not there during a live stream, you know, interacting with chat feels a little awkward in a recording, I find, at the very least. But I'm leaving in a really fun discussion that or discussions that happen with the chat that I think are, you know, just got me into some new topics, talking about stuff that got me out of what I had planned for the streams. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. It'll give you a little preview as well. If you've never showed up to a live stream before, you'll kind of see how interactive and cool it is, thanks to me, because I'm the coolest. Or something like that. Anyway, thank you everyone for being here. Why don't we just get right to it? Yeah, let's do that. Here we go. I really am. We're going to talk about the McMahons and the Ring Boy lawsuit, which is still ongoing. It hasn't been resolved. We're still doing some legal wrangling and whatnot. But we're going to read this article off the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 online, shall we? Vince and Linda McMahon have filed oppositions against plaintiffs' request to keep their anonymity in the ongoing Ring Boy lawsuit. According to Brandon Thurston of Post Wrestling, the McMahons are asking a federal judge to require the plaintiffs to litigate under their real names, arguing that the anonymity hurts their ability to defend themselves. The plaintiffs earlier this month had filed a motion to continue allowing them to use John Doe pseudonyms. In their arguments, both lawyers for both Vince and Linda McMahon cited recent cases involving Sean Combs and Kevin Spacey, where plaintiffs were required to use their names during proceedings, although those cases were in New York, whereas the Ring Boy lawsuit is taking place in Maryland, where it isn't required to follow those precedents. The McMahon's attorneys have also brought up the potential for limited confidentiality orders. Excuse me, I can read. The plaintiffs have until February 6th to respond to the oppositions. The lawsuit against the McMahons, WWE, and TKO was filed back in October of 2024, accusing the McMahons of knowing and doing nothing to prevent Mel Phillips from sexually assaulting underage boys in the 80s and early 90s. The case was held up as the Maryland Supreme Court considered the legality of the law that allowed plaintiffs to sue. The case was then allowed to continue when the court ruled in October that the law was constitutional. Of course, you know, in this circumstance, you know, of course, what the McMahons are trying to do here is this is just an intimidation tactic, right? This is all that's all there is to it. It's just an intimidation tactic because the plaintiffs in this situation should have a right to their anonymity. They shouldn't need to have their full identities be out there and available in the public record for stuff that happened when they were minors and, unsavory stuff on top of that. It's already something that a lot of them have probably had a long extended, had long and extended issues trying to deal with it. Notwithstanding, notwithstanding that one of the plaintiffs did commit suicide not that long ago. I think 3 years tops, 2-3 years tops, or something similar. So look, it's not an easy case, and it is not something that I feel like the burden should be bigger on these individuals who are trying to find some kind of closure, some kind of peace with this. It's an intimidation tactic, if you ask me. It's really just as simple as that, where Vince and Linda, they don't care. They don't give a shit. And they probably actually want this to happen because they know it's going to act as a deterrent if the John Does have to identify themselves, because they probably would want to, because, there'd be a reasonable expectation then that the John Does just don't want their identity out there and might just drop out of the case. And if you think that the McMahons haven't thought about that possibility and are not playing this card for exactly that reason, well, welcome to the real world, I guess. Like, this is something, this is something that is absolutely a tactic. It wouldn't be surprising at all, right? And the precedents that happened in New York for the Sean Combs and Kevin Spacey trials. Look, I'm not a lawyer or anything. I'm not even familiar all that much, with the details of those court cases, but those two individuals still lost their cases, as far as I know, as far as I understand. They both lost their cases regardless. So, the defense of, well, we need better time to prepare. I think ultimately what the judge, what was established here in the idea that the John Does could keep their anonymity was, the judge was basically saying, we don't need to publicly name these people for you guys to properly defend yourselves. If you are free from any wrongdoing, then this will not be a problem. Why do you need to know that these children, these people, these adults now, when they were children, they were under your care and potentially had these bad things happen to them? You should be able to account for who these individuals are. You should be able to account for the actions you took in regards to Mel Phillips and the other outstanding evidence that exists, saying that you were made aware that people were telling you about Mel Phillips and so on and so forth. So you should be able to put together a proper defense. I think that's essentially what the judge said in their statement. But now the McMahons are opposing this because they want to humiliate these people. That's all there is to it. Because they know, both of them know, that the weirdos who support them, right? Because don't get me wrong, you have to be a weirdo to support people who are being accused of turning the other, of looking the other way when someone on their staff was, performing not inappropriate acts. That's the word I was looking for. Inappropriate acts on teenage boys. Like, you have to be that a special kind of weirdo to defend that. But nonetheless, there are weirdos who do stick up for Vince and for Linda, And these weirdos will come and attack the defendants in these circumstances. Look at what they did with Janelle Grant before her name was announced. They already tracked her down. They were plastering her name and her picture all throughout, all over the internet before the lawsuit had actually been made public. They had found her out. They were putting pictures of her anywhere. Like, this is what they do. And then it doesn't stop there, because once they have the names, once they have the pictures, then they chase them down. Then they find their address, their phone number. They dox them. And then they harass the families. They harass the employers. They just make their lives a living hell on top of the living hell that they're already living with, thanks to the alleged inactions of Vince McMahon and Linda McMahon. So this one still has to move through. So we'll February 6th, right? Of course, was the date by which the plaintiffs must challenge Vince and Linda's request here. Oh, and WWE, they decided to not oppose the use of the use of anonymity for the victims. That doesn't necessarily suddenly make them the good guys, but they are not. They're not standing with Linda and Vince in this circumstance. They're like, nah, just go ahead. Probably their legal department said, it's not worth it. Let's just, it's not worth it. We don't have to put up a fight. There's too many negatives if we do this. So there you go. So we're going to keep an eye on this, of course, moving forward. I hope everyone realizes that it's not going to get any better, but this is not going to go to court, right? This is going to go to, we're never really going to reach discovery on this, with this case. It's going to be settled out of court, unfortunately. We have to talk about AJ Styles again. AJ Styles at the Royal Rumble in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia on this weekend, this past Saturday. What was it? The 31st? It was the 31st, January 31st. A Royal Rumble that I did not watch. I didn't watch the entire thing. I didn't lay any peepers on it. And that's okay. And I'm very proud of myself. I haven't watched a Royal Rumble in a couple of years. A Royal Rumble but from everything that I've heard, particularly from people that I trust, a Royal Rumble that was very, very mid and are no longer fun. This is what a lot of people, longtime wrestling fans, have been telling me. The Rumbles are no longer fun, apparently. And I remember there was a time that the Royal Rumbles every year were a ton of fun, right? It's been a few years that you keep hearing that. Now it's no more fun. It's not fun. You get the surprises, but you can't always get surprises. That's not how you make the Royal Rumble fun. That's how you elevate it, I guess. But it's not how they say fun. Anyway, that same Royal Rumble, outside of the Royal Rumble matches in which Powerhouse Hobbs debuted as Royce Keys, which, by the way, we have to underscore the fact that Royce Keys has jumped onto the main roster, leapfrogging Ricky Saints. I find that really funny. I just find that funny. But I'm worming my way to the topic here. So at this same Royal Rumble, which was won by Roman Reigns, and the women's was won by Gianna Daddio. That's her name, right? Isn't it Gianna? It's Gianna, right? Gianna Daddio. Liv Morgan. On the same show, Gunther retired AJ Styles in a career versus, no stakes at all. That's really funny to me. That's really, really funny to me. It will never not be funny to me that this match was set up and the only stakes was AJ Styles' career, and Gunther's like, win or lose, I don't give a shit. Like, even if I lose, there's no real consequence for me. So AJ Styles hit the bricks. He's gone. He's history from World Wrestling Entertainment. And now the rumors are circulating. That already had been circulating, but now they're circulating even harder as to whether or not he truly is done with professional wrestling. An emotional AJ Styles puts his gloves back on after hearing the support from the fans, and so on and so forth. It's been known for months that the 48-year-old Styles would be retiring at some point in 2026. If this is the end, his final match came rather abruptly. That's putting it nicely. Gunther used underhanded tactics to beat Styles when they faced off in the January 12 episode of Raw. WWE then ran an angle where Gunther forced Styles to put his career on the line in order to get a rematch. Then Gunther, who has been nicknamed the career killer by WWE, has already retired both Goldberg and John Cena before defeating Styles today. And he's probably going to do it to Rey Mysterio. He's probably going to do it to Randy Orton, which will probably come up maybe sooner than we think. That's what they're gonna that's what they're gonna do, right? That's his shtick now. So now the speculation is running wild, right? You even have, Paul Levesque, Triple H. He's saying, "Oh no, man, this guy's done. He's finished as an in-ring wrestler." During the post show, while he was being heckled by the Riyadh crowd, WWE COO said that based on conversations he had with Styles, he had made it clear the Royal Rumble was it for him when it came to being an in-ring competitor. This is a quote from Paul Levesque. "Well, obviously, we expected it later in the year. We had a lot of conversations about it. AJ is one of those people that absolutely wants to give back and be a part of this business. I don't want to speak for him, but the conversations that he had with me, he made it very clear that he was just done with the in-ring. There's a point where you just reach in your career. I'll get it right. There's a point where you just reach in your career where you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And when your heart goes, no matter how good you are, he hasn't lost a step." I'm choking on my impersonation. "But when you say, I'm just at a place where I don't want to do this anymore, it's time before you get hurt, before you get told you're not allowed to do this anymore. I think he was there. So on behalf of President Trump, no, that last part's not in there. That last part was a little improv. That was a little off the cuff. A little something just off the bean. Boom. It's coming right at you. You never saw it coming. Woo! Can I get a location and a color, please? No, that's fine. Do you really think, there's people pointing to this and going, see? Paul Levesque said he was done. Are you really going to try to convince me, right, that Paul Levesque is going to say, oh no, he's not done. He's going to go wrestle elsewhere. Even if that's the case, he's not going to say it. Whatever this statement is just unreliable because Paul Levesque is an unreliable narrator. Just as simple as that. So, he's pushing for saying, AJ Styles should go to NXT and all that stuff. To coach, right? Not to wrestle. Now, there have been no reports out there in regards to what AJ Styles is going to do next. Okay. But there have been people that have connections to AEW who have been whispering things, again with the whispers, but these are not reports, right? This is all stuff that's going around. But again, I've heard it from enough different places that there might be a through line here, but you have to consider everything that we're about to talk about here as a rumor. Because look, I've heard from, and it's out there, right? It's not even super secret stuff. You can go listen to Joe Lanza. He talks about AJ Styles and the reporting the stuff that he's heard. He talked about it openly on one of his podcast recordings. So it's not like something, it's out there. And this is like I tell you guys, I don't want to break news. I want to talk about the broken news. I want to talk about the news once it's broken. And again, this isn't even news. Like, this is just rumors. But I think that, look, this is what we've heard. We've heard either that. We've heard that either AJ Styles is considering to go to AEW, or that he's going to be very, very loyal and stick to his guns, because loyalty is one of his strongest attributes. Look, only someone completely and deeply loyal would have stuck with TNA as long as he did, with all the various nonsense over the years that he had to deal with specifically. So there might be a bit of loyalty that's keeping him from going, or he's actually considering going. Again, the rumors that I've heard have said that there is an offer that was made by Tony Khan, and it is in AJ Styles' hands. And it is up to AJ. Okay? I think there's even people who said, they're just waiting on AJ to call back. Like, that's where we're at right now. There's a lot of speculation. There's a lot of people who are wondering what would be the next move here. Of course, I think it is safe to say that Tony Khan is going to throw everything he can at old Allen here to try and get him into his company. Because, you've heard the things like, look, AJ Styles has said it publicly multiple times. No, I think I'm done. I'm retiring, done with wrestling. He's even said, at some point he'd like to get a coaching job and whatnot, right? But at some point, everybody has a price. And I think ultimately what we should expect is for Tony Khan to just empty out the bank to bring AJ Styles into AEW and have the matches that I think every AEW fan wants to see. We were kidding around with this on the last stream, right? But Will Ospreay is calling Tony every day. He's like, "Did you sign him yet, mate?" Says, "No, Will. Oh, you'll be the first to know," kind of thing. Click. And that's a match that Will Ospreay 100% wants. I think there's a lot of wrestling fans who would love to see AJ Styles and Kenny Omega go at it, with AJ simply pretexting, "We've got some unfinished business, don't we, cleaner?" type of thing. And I think everyone would be okay with that. Ricochet this week, he popped on to social media and basically, he was healing it up. He was in character. He was saying, "AJ shouldn't come here. He's scared. He's afraid of me." And he's probably thinking, look, we're both unfettered, unchained from, the house style, the WWE house style. Let's see what we can do together. I think these are things that have draw value, right? I think it's like I told you last time on stream. If I'm AEW, I bring in AJ Styles for a year, 12 months, and and every pay-per-view, I get 12 big-time fucking matches out of him. Big-time singles matches. And you do all the matches that people never thought that they were going to see. I've even seen Bandito and AJ Styles. I'm like, yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Send him to Arena Mexico. Have him fight Mystico. That's where I'm at in my head. I bet he's kicking himself that that his contract was up a little too late and he couldn't go join the festivities in Japan for Tanahashi's retirement and stuff like that, Dust off Christopher Daniels. Let's have AJ Styles and Samoa Joe and Christopher Daniels one more time. No, don't do that. We don't need to sully the legacy of one of the rare, all-timer great matches from TNA, right? There's no one right now that seems to want to go on record and say it's happening or it's not happening. So we're still very much in a fluctuation zone here. There's still a lot of stuff going around. It's still going to fluctuate quite a bit, but from everything that I've listened to, everything I've picked up, the through lines are AEW has made an offer to AJ Styles. And look, I've said it multiple times when we were talking about AJ Styles in the past few weeks. I find that this is a guy who's dead behind the eyes now. This is a guy who I felt was phoning it in, didn't care. So when he started talking about retirement, I was like, oh yeah, I can see it. This guy's done. I can see it. This guy's done. Because I kept feeling like regardless of what he got into, regardless of what he was doing, it was all just going through motions. And there was no more pizzazz. There was no more, that AJ Styles magic, right? Of course, the dead behind the eyes could 100% be due to the fact that he's just sick of being where he is. Absolutely. That could absolutely be a thing. And maybe all he's really looking for is a proper change of scenery. And then the eyes get lit up again. And he puts a little extra conditioner in his hair. And he's out and he's dazzling us all again. And we're like, Jesus Christ. Imagine it'll make us upset at the number of years that were lost in WWE while they were doing basically nothing with them. Before we wrap it up, should I end this segment on a depressing thought? Chad, do you want me to end this little AJ Styles talk on a depressing thought? This is a theory. This is not something that I have heard anyone say, oh, this is being discussed. Okay? But hear me out. It's a theory. It's a theory that was shared with me. But again, an absolute 100% theory, just shooting this shit, fantasy booking, okay? What I'm about to say has no root in anything factual or any rumor that I have heard. And here's the depressing part. What if this retirement is indeed not a true retirement? What if it is an angle because AJ Styles' contract isn't up just yet and he goes over to TNA? You see, he's no longer a WWE superstar in kayfabe, in canon. So he goes to TNA and has a couple of matches there. Look, again, this is a loyal guy. Right? This is a loyal guy. And he unquestionably has good feelings about TNA. And he sees how things are going. And he sees a guy like Mike Santana right now as the champion. He's got his old pal Frankie Kazarian still kicking around down there. And he's like, you know what? Like Triple H said here, right? And he'd like to give something back. Go into TNA. You have a couple of matches, you pop a couple of numbers, you're still under contract with WWE. The retirement thing is all just kayfabe, I'm just saying, could that be a possibility? And I'm not trying to be cute. I'm not trying to tongue-in-cheek this and I know something you don't. That's not at all. I was listening to someone talk a couple of days ago. They brought it up and I was like, oh my God, he's right. That could happen. Oh my God. So, because no one has reported that his contract is up. Am I correct, chat? No one has come out. Fightful specifically, they're usually really plugged in on this stuff. Mike Johnson, no one has come out to say AJ Styles' contract is up. Compare that to the Tomasso Ciampa stuff, where Tomasso Ciampa said, my contract is coming up. All it is right now is AJ Styles loses a career match at Royal Rumble, but it could all still be an angle. We'll see. but it's a very interesting time. This has been such a great contract season, chat. Don't you find? This has been like the best contract season in a long fucking time. I think ever since Cody left AEW, when the rumors started of Cody, they started floating around that he was going to leave AEW. That was S tier. That was an S tier contract season. There's been so much really fun stuff. It's been a lot of fun to cover. AJ can't be happy with the ways his career has gone in the past number of years. He had a chance a few years ago to leave WWE. And by the way, there was an offer from Tony Khan on the table. It says, you leave WWE, we will welcome you with open arms. And AJ Styles decided to re-sign. I think he's re-signed twice, if I'm not mistaken, since AEW has been around. Because the contract I think that he's on right now is a 1-year deal. I think. So again, like it, these things about every time I hear this, right? Where it's like, we had these discussions with Shinsuke Nakamura. It was like, Nakamura can't be happy with how his career is went. Nakamura has had multiple times to jettison his ass out of the company. 2, if not 3 opportunities. And he re-signed every time. So is he really that unhappy? From an outside observer's perspective, I would say no. I think he's satisfied with his lot. I want to start off tonight talking about Tomasso Ciampa and that great episode of Collision. And you'll see I'm going to tie into a few things here, but this is significant news enough. Tomasso Ciampa wrestles his first match in AEW and wins the TNT Championship off of Mark Briscoe. Despite hitting, I'm reading this article off of the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online. Despite hitting multiple psycho drillers on Briscoe, Ciampa was unable to keep him down for the 3 count. However, in the end, Ciampa finished the match by hitting Briscoe with the running knee strike in a tremendous final sequence, by the way. Following the match, the new champion was showered with a "You deserve it" chant from fans. It was also noted by the announcers that Ciampa has now become the second ever AEW wrestler after Mercedes Moné to win a title in their debut match. Soon after the match, former champion Kyle Fletcher also shared his intentions of going after Ciampa's new gold. Fletcher showed up at the end after the match and stood at the top of the ramp, gave the old stare down, gave the old cue to Tomasso here, telling him, "Listen, brother, I am next." Ciampa, 40, is a former WWE NXT champion, a 2-time WWE Tag Team champion, and a 1-time WWE NXT Tag Team champion. He has also competed across multiple promotions and won titles, most notably the Ring of Honor World Television Championship. Phenomenal match. I thought this match was so fucking good. I think in my little rating system, I gave it like 4.25 stars. I thought it was such a good match. Just brutal, just a good old fashioned brutal wrestling match, where the guys are just laying it all out there. They're working hard. They're sweating. They're doing all sorts of moves. They're striking each other. They're dropping each other hard. And it's so good. And Mark Briscoe, once again, another excellent TV match. Mark Briscoe, week after week, nonstop, just coming out, just having these excellent matches time and time again. And here ends up dropping the title to Tomasso Ciampa, and I don't have a problem with that. I really, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with that. Like if Tony brought Tomasso Ciampa in, he was like, "Look, you know what? We're going to do something with you that we haven't done with anyone else." That's tremendous, right? That you're going to come in and, like the article said, the only other person that ever benefited from a title victory on the first match in the company is Mercedes Moné. So it's not as if it's something that happens frequently in AEW. But but Tony was like, okay, let's just go ahead and do it. Let's just go. Out the gate, Ciampa, you win, you challenge, you win. And now, you get to be a bit of a workhorse here moving forward. And we have to say, I don't objectively, right? The entire Tomasso Ciampa entrance, presentation, everything that they have done with this guy in only 1 week has been so spot on, has been so fucking good. It's been so incredibly good. His debut was not only a surprise, but was good when he showed up on Dynamite last week. It was tremendous. People lost their minds. Internet lost their minds. Like, I don't think anyone, it didn't feel like Tomasso Ciampa going to AEW was a lock. I think a lot of people wanted that, but I don't think anyone was like, oh, he absolutely has to go. Like, this is, going to happen. It's in the cards. I didn't see it that way personally. So he has like this incredible week. And now he's a star already. He's positioned as a guy that that people will have to have a time to defeat. You know what I mean? Like, now that, Ciampa arrives, is positioned as a big deal. He comes in, wins a title on his first match. Everyone else after is going to be chasing this guy, and he's positioned as a badass, as a tough guy, as a big, strong dude who's going to be a danger on this roster. And I think that's tremendous. And I think one of the reasons why this has been so successful is because of how this kind of breaks away from Tony Khan's his most regular booking trope, which is bring a guy in and then have him lose until it's time to push him. And there's been multiple people like that he has brought in and has put through the ringer, losing matches, but then eventually, gets a proper push and then people are excited about it. Like, this is so unconventional Tony Khan in this circumstance. I think it takes everyone by surprise. It breaks the patterns that Tony has established for himself, right? So I'm all for it. I adore. I demand nothing less or nothing more, I should say. I don't expect anything more. What am I trying to say? I really like it. How about that? I really like it when I'm surprised in pro wrestling. I like it when the things that I think I know and I think I understand are rattled, where I'm like, oh, okay, this is really interesting. I was not expecting this. The unexpected in pro wrestling is, well, as you know, like it's one of the great joys of pro wrestling, the unexpected, whether it's a debut, a victory, whatnot. That's one of the great things. And I like it. I like it when this kind of stuff happens. But nonetheless, it gets me thinking. I'm like, and here, bear with me here, okay? I'd like to hear from you, Chad, if you think this is absolutely insane or what. There are whispers, okay? There are whispers going on right now that TKO, is sending out contract renewals to whoever's coming up and whatnot. And a lot of people right now are getting lowballed by TKO. And there are a lot of people who are looking at the numbers that are on their contracts currently and the numbers that TKO is sending out as a renewal. And they're wondering, these people are scratching their chins and going, I wonder how much I could get in AEW. These are whispers, okay? I don't have any names. I don't know of anyone, but there are certain circumstances here that there are, but you know, there's enough whispering going around for me to take notice, where it's like, okay, I'm hearing this quite a bit. There's probably a little smoke to this fire. And that there's people out there in WWE that are questioning whether they should stay or go. And from what I understand, a couple of surprising names, couple of names that you're like, oh, this person would leave WWE? Really? You know, that kind of stuff. So I'm just wondering if this type of situation here, that bringing in Tomasso Ciampa at a very good price, by the way, because I think Ciampa said, of course I didn't pull it up on the docket, but I read something, and I just can't remember if it's Ciampa who said it himself or if it's a report, but I think it's a report. It's probably from Dave, right? Or Alvarez, whatever. I think I read a report saying that Ciampa was willing to stay in WWE, that he was hoping he could stay, but AEW made him an offer he couldn't refuse. And you're like, okay. So I'm questioning, is Tony Khan simply creating a precedent here for a guy like Tomasso Ciampa and other guys and gals who might be wondering, scratching their chins and going, do I resign or do I go to AEW? Is Tony Khan just showing all of these people who might be, you know, deep in thought as to what their next move might be? Is he just showing them, hey, we'll take care of you here. We'll give you good money. And, you know, might have a little fun in the meantime. You might enjoy yourself here. Now, of course, that's all exciting and fun, right? Because, you know, you've got names popping into your head and you're like, oh my God, what if this guy and this girl, and, you know, what if, but the one thing we as wrestling fans don't want is for AEW to become the dumping ground for WWE talent that TKO doesn't want to pay for anymore, right? That's the other thing. Don't want it to become, you know, a TNA back in the day. We don't want to revert to a situation where we have to deal with WWE malcontents because they thought the grass would be so much greener because they thought they'd be treated like world champions, right? And then you end up with guys like Rusev and Malachi Black and Andrade who just end up being miserable and just want to leave. You know? So maybe this is this kind of message he's saying. He being Tony Khan. Maybe he's just, you know, showing off, flexing a little bit, saying, look at this guy here that I just made champion as he entered my promotion. This could be you. And I'm saying this. But then again, we need to nuance, right? Everything is a question of timing in professional wrestling. There's always a question of being at the right place at the right time. And I think Tomasso Ciampa, to be able to benefit so strongly like this and become an instant champion on his first match in AEW, I think that is a benefit of him being at the right place at the right time, where there's a little discontent, you know, in regards to WWE booking. There's some openings that are being created in AEW for new talent, for new opportunities, you know, and he's a guy that wrestling fans in general, as it is pointed out in the chat, feel was completely and utterly misused in his time on the main roster. So is this a situation where Ciampa is just got his release at the absolute perfect time, where Tony Khan, Ring of Honor fan, Tony Khan, of course, let's not forget, sees Tomasso Ciampa and is like, hey, I want this guy to work for me. And then at the same time, like I said, just shows that the grass is indeed greener here, which is a fine strategy. But I think we cannot expect, I think that from this point on, you can't expect anyone else that Tony Khan picks up from WWE in the future to get this kind of treatment. I don't think this is a template, is what I'm saying. Because I think Tomasso Ciampa was just the guy at the right moment, right? It's kind of like Jon Moxley when he was available, right? It just so happened his contract with WWE was coming up when this AEW thing was taking off. Because who knows what Jon Moxley would be doing in 2018 when his contract was coming up. 2019 when it was 18 when it was coming up, right? If I'm not mistaken. Christ, I just listened to the I listened to the audiobook of his autobiography not that long ago, and I had read it even before that. So, I think that, I hope I'm making myself clear, is that Tomasso Ciampa is just the guy who benefits. Like, he'll be the first of maybe a string of hires or people leaving at the very least who will be able to benefit from an AEW hire. That's how I should put it. He was the first in a string of recent, he will be the first of a string of recent releases or upcoming releases from WWE who will benefit from an entry into AEW. I don't think there will be exceptions, We'll talk about one of them coming up soon, but not everyone's going to be treated like a really big deal when they come into the company. At some point, that's just not sustainable. And you're building an entire promotion with your own stars and whatnot. Like, that's just not sustainable. So I can't help but think that this is implicitly, or maybe explicitly, a message that he's sending out to any WWE talent who's thinking of coming over to AEW. It's like, look, you can make good money, really good money, and have a little fun in the process. Because wasn't that your problem under Paul Levesque? You weren't having fun anymore because you weren't being used. Isn't that part of it? So there you go. Look, overall, in this specific Tomasso Ciampa spot, that's kind of how I'm vibing it right now. That's how I feel. And look, if Ciampa wrestles every match like he did on Saturday, I have no issues. Like, this is like, I have no problems with him being around. Like, he was incredibly solid and precise. Like, he's always been a very good professional wrestler. I've always I haven't seen him wrestle in a long time, particularly post neck fusion surgery. I haven't. So I don't know what he looked like. I don't know how he could pull this off. I have no idea. I had no idea. So I was thrilled to see what he was able to do. It's a great, I think he can be a great addition to the roster, adding to an already incredible upper mid card. This is all very good. And I've seen some people say, oh, I wanted Mark Briscoe to have a long reign with the TNT title. And I'm like, why? No, no. It doesn't matter. Like, these mid-card titles, this is why we bemoan the trios titles being the second most protected title in the company, it feels. Just have people pass them around. Just pass the title around. It's fine. It's a mid-card title. This is what it's for. And it should be lost. It should be defended and lost on TV. It's a fucking TV title. It has the name of the network on it. So, more of this, actually. This is fine. Mark Briscoe deserves a long time. Mark Briscoe is going to be great, title or not. I understand that for a lot of fans, this is very, it's very significant to get that their favorites get title shots and that they're recognized as really top tier champions. But, not every title has to be discussed like the world championship in a company. The world championship is something else. All of this stuff, you're making guys, you're creating stories, you're creating opportunities for people to wrestle each other. This is what these mid-card titles are for. Gotta stop pretending that if she doesn't have this extensive reign, it was a failure. Jesus Christ. Great Collision, by the way. The opener with Clark Connors and Darby Allin was fucking awesome. And Clark Connors was so alive in this match. He was so into it. Completely animated. And I thought he looked better here than he had been for months in New Japan. He's motivated. Him throwing, look, it was the classic Darby throw me around match, right? That's what it was. And it's fine because I love those matches because Darby's nuts. So it's fine. And when Connors just like shoulder blocks him off of his skateboard, I popped huge. That was amazing. He looked really good. At the end of the show, I was like, that guy wrestled like he wanted a job. and the rumor going around is that there's two conflicting reports, but they're all going down the same path. There's one report that says he signed with AEW, and the other report is he's not signed yet, but it's going to happen. It's just it's not a question of whether Clark Connors is going to be a part of the AEW roster or not. It's just a question of when. Is it going to happen now? Is it going to happen later? I'm so happy. Like, I'm really glad if this Clark Connors sticks around. You know, the Clark Connors that we got towards the end there in New Japan with with Tire-san and all that. I was like, this is all bullshit. This is all dumb. This sucks. This really sucks because there was a while Maloney and Connors, before Maloney went heavyweight, Connors and Maloney were a great tag team. They both were great. And Connors, I don't know, like he always had trouble finding his footing really to get himself over. And now in his first night, well, it's his second match in AEW, okay, but his Collision debut, listen, he gets on TV after a prolonged absence, right? And he's going after Darby Allin, and he looks great. And then they create the connection with Gabe Kidd, right? They create the connection with Gabe Kidd. They're in the same group in New Japan, the War Dogs, now the Unbound Co. Yes, I know the logo's terrible. I agree. And so they're working together here because Gabe is not done with Darby. And I'm like, okay, that's a cool little connection there. Makes the match seem a little less random. I like it. So, Gabe Kidd, it's a question of time, fellas. I think we're all aware, aren't we? Anyway, good for Clark Connors. And look, it was just, I talk about it often these past few weeks on the Dynamite review, which you should listen to if you don't. But not every time, but these past few weeks, ever since we've started the new year, the post World's End AEW has been so fucking good. It's been so good. Excellent Dynamite after excellent Dynamite after excellent Dynamite. I'm sitting down and I'm saying, it's another great one. Off to a great start. And then in the meantime, Collision has just been killing it. And look at the through line. The through line on both shows is lots of wrestling. 6-7 matches on both shows. Dynamite, you need a little more of the sports entertainment. You got to have a little more of the backstage stuff. You got to get the in-ring promos. You need a little more of that because that's how they designed their flagship show to be. All right, I get that. But the shows are not compromising on the wrestling in any way, shape, or form. And this is a great and excellent move by Tony Khan to do this at a moment where WWE fans are starting to be disenfranchised with the product, with Paul Levesque's booking. Again, you had the Saudi crowd chanting, "You fucked up, we want Vince, AEW," and so on and so forth. They did that again at the post-show presser when Triple H came out. And this is a market that technically should be co-opted by WWE, right? But they're doing this again. Like they're doing there is a wave of discontent right now in WWE by WWE fans. What is the best possible thing you can do as the alternative, as the competition? What is the best thing you can do then? Put your best foot forward. And AEW's best foot forward is professional wrestling. Is focusing on the matches. That's what they do best. So instead of trying to do whatever the fuck TNA is doing to try and carve some market share out, instead they're focusing on the one thing that WWE cannot touch them on, and that is great bell-to-bell in-ring action. And they've been focusing on putting on all sorts of matches week after week. Last Thursday Thursday was when I did the review, but last Wednesday felt so good. There were different people in the mix. There was a lot of stuff going on. It felt like a rejuvenated AEW. And guess what? They're scoring high in the ratings. We don't do much ratings talk here. We just point out the obvious when other people point out the obvious for us. But their best overall rating, like in 4 months, I read something like that. The measure of success for AEW, or the secret to the success of AEW, has never been a mystery. It's always been offer something different than WWE. Do something different than the market leader. And whenever AEW does that, whenever they do something that is markedly different than what WWE does, it is crowned with success. And when they try to be WWE light, it flops. It fails. They lose viewership. They lose pay-per-view buys. But then the opposite happens when they focus on what they are absolutely excellent in doing. This Collision was that as well. Adam Priest versus Konosuke Takeshita. Excuse me, I had Takeshita on the brain clearly. Kazuchika Okada and Adam Priest, a match which ostensibly I was sitting down and was like, well, here's a squash for Okada. And I was going, on Adam Priest, because I like Adam Priest. And I want Adam Priest to become a guy in AEW. I want Adam Priest to become a guy in AEW. I want him to stop slumming around on Ring of Honor and come up into the big leagues, okay? And that match turned out to be an absolute fucking great time. It was so good. And Okada gave a lot. And Adam Priest was just played his role perfectly. And he was so good. Of course, he lost. I don't think that was ever in contention. But what a fun match that was. Collision, man. It's just consistently easy to watch, in and out pro wrestling. It's fun times. Another successful show. AEW is in a good spot right now. It's in a very good spot. We've had this discussion before. Wrestling is cyclical. There's always cycles, right? So we're slowly going into another cycle. Where essentially when WWE doesn't do as well, then everything else does. In the past, when WWE wouldn't do well, the indies would flourish. That would be the thing, right? You'd have the independent circuit that would get a big boon. People would search for Ring of Honor more, and a lot of people got into New Japan Pro Wrestling. The business benefits when WWE is in a slump, and you can already feel it. Like for WrestleMania week this year, you can already feel like there's a lot more effervescence and interesting things happening. I feel like this year, WrestleMania week, more people are going to be jacked in than in previous years. And why? Because the market leader's not doing as great. Again, I'm not saying that they're in the shithole, far from it, with the fucking amount of money they make. But we're in a cycle. Slowly. And then WWE, when WWE doesn't do well, everything else gets lifted. So Enjoy it, wrestling fans. Enjoy it till the next cycle. All right, we got to talk about this Roman Reigns appearance on the Pat McAfee show that had the world a-buzzing before the Royal Rumble this week. We're going to read this article off the Figure 4 Online Wrestling Observer, or Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online, and here's okay. He said a bunch of stuff during this interview, but there's one quote in particular that I want to go over that Roman said, of course. So he's hyping the Royal Rumble and whatnot, and then he cuts a line here, which I'll read it to you, okay, and then we'll get into the analysis. But to be completely honest and transparent here, 2 years ago it all changed around. And what I've been doing out there hasn't exactly been the same of what I've done before. And the way I look at it is, I'm a generous tribal chief. I give the people plenty of time. These young talent, they say we hog all the TV time. They'll complain about one thing, and then I leave an opening. I give them plenty of space to create whatever type of superstardom they want. Get over, kids, get over. You know what I mean? And we're 2 years here now, and we haven't advanced. We haven't evolved. We have great leadership in Nick Khan. God bless him, what a businessman. He's a genius. But we have to be able to keep up with that creatively. And that's why people like me, people who are striving to be the very best, the greatest, the GOATs, the Michael Jordans, I just can't sit around and see mediocrity. Not when I set it up for everything to just slam it home. I mean, we're on Netflix, for crying out loud. You got to capitalize. We have people playing around and trying to figure it out, and I got the formula. I know how to cook it up. Now, he said a bunch of other stuff as well. I don't care about the other stuff. This is the quote that I want to, that I sort of want to pick apart here, or at least give my thoughts over. Because when I saw this, I thought it was funny as hell. I was rubbing my hands together and was like, all right, we get to dress down Paul the Fraud Levesque one more time this week because our boy here, Roman Reigns, talks about having great leadership in WWE, yet mentions only Nick Khan. And then later says, you know, we've got great leadership, but we have to keep up with that creatively. Now, who's in charge of creative in World Wrestling Entertainment? That's right, Paul the Fraud Levesque. So I'm like, oh, this is a juicy bit. This is really interesting. And to be frank, well, you know, I'll be Warren, you be Frank. All of these, this quote here, the quote about the business thing, I saw that first out of context, because when I read the rest and him talking about being a generous tribal chief, like, oh, wait, is this a kayfabe interview? Is he in character right now? Because if so, it kind of diminishes the other thing. It's not as juicy as I thought it was. And I've been then seeing a lot of things going around, a lot of people talking, and apparently, yes, it is. It is all in character. It is all a stage play for something that they're shooting for season 3 of Unreal. And folks, I gotta tell you, that makes all of this even worse. From the disappointment of this being a work to being a work for the phony reality show that they do, it is extremely disappointing. It popped my bubble so hard at the thought of Roman Reigns just taking a sneaky dig at Triple H. And now the possibility is that this sneaky dig might actually be a part of something that they're going to be setting up for Unreal, which is Absolutely fucking awful. Why, folks? Why are we doing work shoots? You know, work shoots. That classic go-to when everything goes wrong, you know, and that when you're completely out of ideas, the work shoot. You get the internet, you work the internet fans, you blur the lines between reality and fake, and the good part of a work shoot is that every single time it makes money, right? Every work shoot comes with the guarantee that you're going to be making tons and tons of money. It is going to be an angle, a story that people are going to talk about for a long time, right? Work shoots, brother. That's what the audiences want. That's what wrestling fans always want. Of course, in case you haven't picked it up, I'm being sarcastic. Work shoots stink. Work shoots have never made money. They've never made any money for a company. They've made money for people. You look at Brian Pillman. Brian Pillman made some money off of a work shoot, but they never, ever worked. And as Chat points out, and on top of that, not only does it make tons of money, your locker room then becomes really happy and content, and no paranoia then is created, right? The boys love to be worked. Oh, geez. They just love it when the promoter starts running things that they're not quite sure are true or not. Man, oh man. And it's a work shoot for the fucking Unreal show. They're not even doing it for the main shows. They're going to set up this fake little tiff between Triple H and Roman Reigns so that more people will watch Unreal. Look, brother, I have seen plenty of clips of Unreal going around, on social media and on YouTube and whatnot. I mean, that show just looks like a disaster. This season 2 looks awful. Like everyone who's in charge in this company just is awful. They all come across as idiots. It's so dumb. This is all a work for the Unreal show. I don't know who's going to be into this. I don't know who this is for. Like hardcore wrestling fans aren't into this shit. And most of them aren't even into the Unreal to begin with. So are they going to feed this to their audience of WWE super fans, and they're going to look at this and going to be, oh my goodness, they really didn't get along backstage, without realizing that they're still being worked, that there is no reality in a reality show? How long has it been, folks, since people have figured out that reality shows are not real? That they're all like produced, overproduced. There's always people giving directions, and like even that fucking 90 Day Fiancé stuff. There's always a producer there trying to create situations and asking questions to infuriate people. Like, it's been a long fucking time now. We all know that reality shows are all there. It's all actors. It's all acted by actors who aren't actors. Like, at this point, we all have to come together and understand that. So look, maybe from that perspective, maybe running a work shoot angle for Unreal makes a lot of sense. Maybe in that circumstance, it makes a lot of sense. Maybe, but look, let's just say that Roman is indeed discontent. He's not pleased. Because look, when he says 2 years, we've been, what does he say here? It all changed. 2 years ago, it all changed. What happened 2 years ago, chat? What happened 2 years ago? Vince gone, right? Vince left 2 years ago. And Roman's like, he's basically saying, this has all been in disarray since Paul Levesque took over. Now, if this were all true, again, fantasy, Fantasy time with Warren Hayes here. If this was all true and Roman Reigns truly was fed up with WWE, Tony Khan will do everything in his power to sign Roman Reigns. He will sell the Jaguars under his dad's nose if he needs to sign Roman Reigns. And don't you think for a second that Roman Reigns would not be his white whale. Don't you think for a second that wouldn't happen. So there you go. Wanted to point that out. I kind of wished it was real because I think that more people, no, let me say that again. I am continuously on the hunt for opportunities to dress down Paul Levesque. So I was disappointed when it sort of all came together and I was like, yeah, it is a work, isn't it? I was disappointed. But Paul will figure it out. He won't let me down. He'll give me a reason to come after him soon. That won't be very long. DP Milligan, nice to see you. Welcome to the chat. Do you think the point of Unreal is for WWE management to control the narrative of the product's real life incidents? Yes. Yes, it is. It's to create an environment where everyone seems to be happy and everyone's in a good mood and everyone loves each other and you get supportive back pats and hugs and all of that. And it's all to show that WWE is one big happy family, right? That's what that is ultimately what it's all for. The problem is that some of the people who are in charge are absolute dunces. So when they try to control the backstage narrative, such as the R-Truth stuff, and R-Truth is there on the show saying, no, I thought it was, where you have Triple H saying, before that, you have Paul Levesque saying, in his interview segment, but he was not fired. He was absolutely, definitely not fired. And then R-Truth goes, no, yeah, they kind of fired me. Look, they told me not to show up. They told me not to come back. I kind of think that, yeah, that's what a firing is. It felt like a firing to me. And they're so dopey that they go and put it in their doc, and they don't understand that, they just made Triple H look like a fool. Anyway, just everyone's dopes. Everyone is dopey. Trying to convince me that the roadie is some kind of like business smart, wrestling high level thinker where he's like, it just makes good business sense. It's like, fuck off, Road Dogg. Fuck off. This guy, who just managed to make all the friends he needed to do when everyone was in party mode, right? He's the guy that went to all the strip clubs and got drunk with everyone. This fucking guy, the least talented of the Armstrong brothers, this fucking guy, and count his fucking blessings that he has friends that he partied with that are now in high places. Would Reigns be willing to work enough dates to make it work? Tony, again, I'm speculating here, okay? But from what I know, Tony Khan would bend over backwards for a Roman Reigns signing. It'd be one of these things where whatever Roman wants, Roman will get. And he will absolutely work limited dates. I'm convinced. Warren, do you agree with Lashley that Ospreay is potentially a huge star and only an idiot could mess that up? Yes. Yes. Here's the thing with Will. AEW is going to have a golden opportunity with Will Ospreay because he came in and was instantly the biggest star in the company. Recall when Ospreay, the first few weeks that Ospreay showed up, everyone was losing their fucking minds. He created such a change for the better in the atmosphere, in the air, the vibes, and everyone. There was a legit. I don't want to say everyone, but there was a legitimate push where everyone was saying, belt Ospreay up now. Whatever plans you had, belt them up now, because the vibe that exists right now, the energy that exists around Will Ospreay now, you will not be able to recreate it. This type of acceptance is organic. It's a toothpaste out of the. It's a situation where you can't put the toothpaste back into the tube. And everyone, there's a huge contention of people who still believe that they fucked it up by belting up Swerve and not belting up Ospreay, because they just missed that golden window of opportunity where Ospreay was at the top of his powers as far as popularity goes. They're going to have a second chance for that, because this injury is keeping Ospreay away from everyone. Everyone is fucking worried about him. Everyone is desperate to know if he's going, when and if he's going to wrestle again. When he comes back, he is going to be the top guy. They're maybe not going to be able to copy the same type of energy, but they are going to reignite Will Ospreay in AEW. And yes, they would be a fool, the fooliest of fools, to fuck it up. And I don't care what your plan is. In fact, your only plan in 2026 should be Will Ospreay wins the AEW Men's World Championship in Wembley Stadium at All In. That's your plan. And there'd have to be something, a seismic change for that to not happen this year. Now, I want to nuance something. For me, especially in retrospect, now that we have the benefit of 2020 vision, sticking to the plan and making Swerve a guy was absolutely the right move, because that added an extra dude on the level. He is over. Everyone loves Swerve. He is a true top guy in the company. So that's the sacrifice you make in your fantasy booking world, where you either strap up Will Ospreay at the height of his popularity, but you sacrifice not getting Swerve over to the extent that he is today. And I think, like I said, look, Ospreay's always going to be over. Might not be at that level that he was when he first came in, but he will always be over. And on top of that, you got another guy over. So it's all like beneficial. I only hope that Will Ospreay, when he comes back, stops trying to put everyone over, because he just wants to, this is a guy that you don't have to tell me. He doesn't have to tell me in interviews, I want to leave the business in a better place than when I came in. Like, his actions prove it. His actions show it. So I hope when he comes back, he's less in let's help the business as opposed to being more in let's help Will Ospreay. That's what he has to do. I hope to God he's in that boat. And if he's not in that boat, Tony needs to give him a really good talking to. AEW having Roman would be more symbolic than an increase to the product's quality. Oh, it's absolute. Oh my goodness. It's absolutely a symbol. It is. That's exactly what it is. The Shield reunion in AEW, an eventual triple threat match. How pissed Trips would be. Yeah. Like, if you want to look, if you do it to piss off Hunter Hearst Helmsley, go right ahead. But me personally, moi, I am zero interested in any Shield reunions. I am zero interested in AEW becoming the stomping grounds for WWE gimmick revivals. Does that make sense? Like, and you can go back, I'm on record. I was not a fan with the reunion of the Undisputed Era. I was like, why are we treading this water? Why are we going down this path? I hate that. Was fun in NXT like 5 years ago at the time, 4 years ago, whatever. That was fun back then. now it's like, all right, no. Had Ospreay not been hurt this past year, I 100% believe he would have taken the belt off of Mox instead of Hangman. Some people would even argue that if Darby Allin hadn't climbed the mountain, he would have been the guy to take the belt off. I don't think people are necessarily ready to hear the reality that Hangman was not the first choice. I mean, he ended up being the choice, and ultimately that's what matters, right? There's still a lot of juice to squeeze out of Ospreay versus Fletcher, especially on top. Absolutely. Holy shit. We're not that's a story you can tell for a long fucking time. And Will is going to be coming back, and he's going to be putting over Callum Newman over in New Japan. Don't forget that. Will is going to have a busy 2026 once he comes back. There's actually so many top level guys now. Is that a problem potentially if more top guys jump into AEW? Depends. Like how many top guys would, like, we're talking like Roman Reigns level. How many top guys do we have in WWE? You've got Roman, you've got CM Punk. He ain't coming back yet. Cody, he ain't coming back yet. Who are the other top people? Gunther's not moving. Like he's the golden boy right now. Like I don't think it's that much of an issue. And like I said, like you bring in a guy like AJ Styles. That's why, like I was saying earlier, you bring in a guy like AJ Styles, you bring him in for a year because he's pushing 50. There's only so much that he's going to be able to give. Bring him in for a year. Give us a fucking great year. 12 pay-per-view top tier matches. Get all the dream matches out of the way. Send AJ off of that. Have a match in Alabama, right? Isn't that where he's from? Atlanta, Alabama, Gainesville, right? Georgia. No, that's it. Georgia. Have him run a venue in the South. AJ's last big match, and there you go. Doesn't have to be here. When he's not taking top spots, he's just he's having a farewell tour. Go to AEW. But Warren, it would be so over. See, this is where I'm going to push back a little. I'm going to push back just a bit because I don't know how much juice that would have with AEW fans. I think people would. I want the match. But I think eventually people will be like, why do we want the match? Why do we want this bad? Like, I don't know. I'm talking from a very personal point of view here, and maybe my read is absolutely wrong. And, sometimes I'm able to look past how I'm feeling, but here I'm like, no, I don't want the Shield reunion. I don't want them. I don't want them doing callbacks to the chair shot and all this fucking bullshit. It's like, this is years ago. I was talking with Rich Craich not that long ago, and he made me realize something where it's like wrestling nostalgia is a fairly recent thing. And when I say fairly recent, I'm talking maybe 10, 20 years or so, right? Because a lot of the guys who came up in the 80s and 90s were still like wrestling a lot of them into the 2000s. And then they started retiring, and then then part of the promotion was, hey, remember this great wrestler from the past? He's still with us. And you can go watch this person's old matches, on the WWE network, or you buy a Coliseum home video or whatever the fuck, right? So wrestling nostalgia, because like Rich told me, Buddy Rogers or, Harley Race or even Ric Flair weren't going around doing throwbacks back in the day to the guys that they trained with, that they watched in the 60s or whatever, the 50s, the 60s. They weren't going around doing all these throwbacks. They were just like, no, we're the guys in the now, right now, and we're going to do our own thing. Like the wrestling nostalgia back then was not a thing. It wasn't a thing. People remembered. You'd have the guys on the road tell stories and whatnot, and that's fun. But as far as it entering the performance and becoming a catalyst, do you remember this era when things were? That's fairly new. It's not that's it. It's a fairly recent phenomenon. Oh, AEW, I am 100% convinced. And you can, if you look, I don't bet, and this is not, I'm not sponsored by any betting organization or setup. And by the way, I wouldn't, because bunch of reasons. But look, I don't bet, and I'm not offering any betting advice. But if I were a betting man, I would absolutely check out the odds and probably put some money on AEW running a WrestleMania week style thing in Louisiana at WrestleMania in April next year, or at least, around April next year, because next year is the WrestleMania in Riyadh, right? I am 100% convinced they're doing it. 100% convinced they're doing it. Mark your calendars. Ibu says Tony Khan sees Roman Reigns as a god. Yeah, I'm telling you all. I agree with Ibu. Tony Khan will do everything to sign a free agent Roman Reigns. If he ever hears that Roman Reigns is available or is interested in listening, it's going to turn into his white whale. Trust me. Trust me. Josh Nason here wrote an article over in the Wrestling Observer Figure 4 Online regarding TKO and their tactics moving into when they move into to cities and want to work with officials. Let's read the article here. New reporting from The Guardian Wednesday has the estimated amount that Paramount Skydance is paying TKO for Zuffa boxing. Zuffa, is it Zuffa? I don't care. For Zuffa boxing broadcast rights, in addition to some interesting quotes regarding the tactics of WWE and UFC's parent company. Longtime boxing writer Thomas Hauser delved into the emergence of the new Zuffa entity and the concerns around fighter pay that have been a part of the conversation around UFC for years. In a passage regarding the controversial amendments around the Ali Act that TKO would like to put into place, Hauser wrote that several arenas like MSG and the Crypto.com arena in Los Angeles support the amendments, as do various officials with state athletic commissions. TKO and Zuffa play hardball, one state regulator, told The Guardian, and they generate so much revenue from WWE and UFC that no one wants to cross them. They're very good at instilling fear, another official said. The article goes into a Zuffa boxing contract in full detail, a contract which reads very similar to UFC contracts with regards to fighters' rights, fights they have to be offered every year, and that process, merchandise rights, and more. Many of these rights, while not exclusive beyond the term of the contract, extend non-exclusively in perpetuity. Hauser notes, WWE contracts were not mentioned. That's insane. That's insane. While not exclusive beyond the term of the contract, they extend non-exclusively in perpetuity. That's nuts. From the article, Hauser stated that it's believed TKO is getting $100 million per year for 12 boxing cards, which is a wide gap from the $1.1 billion UFC gets per year for its 40-plus numbered events and fight night cards via their new 7-year domestic rights deal. Look, here's the thing. WWE contracts were not mentioned in the reporting from The Guardian, right? Josh made that very clear that none of what's being said here directly applies to WWE. However, one can assume that this type of heavy-handed, aggressive nature that TKO has when working with state officials is something that is most likely a tactic that's used with WWE. Like I I don't think anyone feels like TKO is taking a different approach when working with local partners. When it comes to WWE, that they'll be super aggressive with Zuffa boxing, but they'll be nice and kind and happy, be very light, a very light touch with their partners when it comes to WWE. Absolutely not. In fact, we do recall, right? Wasn't it the mayor of Boston, if I'm not mistaken, who basically said, yeah, like we're not letting these guys in here. Like, these guys are creeps or something. Yeah, it wasn't exactly the word creeps that was used, but they had publicly stated that, these guys come in and they think they own the place, but this is our city and it's our rules type of thing. And then people are like, oh, Boston will never get a WWE event. It shouldn't be at the cost of the taxpayers. That's what's insane. You understand? Like, one of the things that keeps baffling me every time when we're talking about the amount of money that something like TKO rakes in for pro wrestling, right? That pro wrestling always started off, and you can say the same thing about just about any pro sport, right? Like, soccer, hockey. These are all sports that started up as an escape for the blue collar worker, right? For basically, low income, median income individuals that, couldn't afford to go to the opera, to the theater and all these these highbrow events. Well, you'd have pro wrestling that you could go to. And it costs you, $10 for you and your date or you and your best friend. You'd go in, you'd sit down, you'd watch some fights, you'd go home. That's essentially it, right? Or you'd go to the bar after, whatever. The point is that you'd go out, you'd have a good time, and it wouldn't cost you, it wouldn't be something that would drain you financially because you didn't have the money to begin with, right? You're not rolling around with, credit cards that with a $10,000 in credit available on your card. You're just like, no, you come in, you pay your stuff, and you go home. And now it's crazy. It's like, no, we're not going to go to fucking Boston because the city is not going to pay to have pro wrestling there. It's crazy to me how much the perception of this business has changed from something that was always considered to be lowbrow, blue collar stuff that anyone really could pop in to go see and enjoy, and now is turning into a luxury event. It's something that has a high price tag attached to it that has now become exclusive, that only certain circles of people can go to enjoy. We've all heard the stories, where people now say, I can't take the family to a WWE show anymore because we won't eat for 2 weeks if we do. Or I'm going to spend a month, 2 months trying to refund the whole thing. Like, it's preposterous, It's really, really crazy to me how everything on that level has changed. How it's just not the same thing anymore. It's not something for the people anymore. It's just not for the people. It's for an elite. It's for people who have too much money. And they're not the target audience of professional wrestling to begin with. Like, the elite has never been the target of a professional wrestling show, because the elite will go, like I said, to the opera. They'll go to Broadway shows. They'll go watch, theater. They'll go to high class events, expensive events. They'll go to fine dining and so on. You're not supposed to go to pro wrestling. That's nuts. It's always something that's fascinating to me. And now we're in a world where TKO is asking site fees, massive site fees, to bring the show to town. And, of course, the Saudi Arabia stuff and, and et cetera, right? It's not just this one thing. But of course, they're aggressive. Of course, they're aggressive and they bully. What was the quote exactly here? They generate so much revenue for WWE from WWE and UFC that no one wants to cross them. So everyone plays nice because apparently it generates a lot of revenue for the cities. Apparently a lot of people come in, go to restaurants, have a weekend, make a weekend out of it, park their cars, Apparently it's a big revenue boost for a city. But then again, it's like this is the kind of thing that I ask myself, like, what kind of revenue boost does Las Vegas need? It's like, what does Las Vegas need as far as revenue? Like, as far as I understand, there's always people going around, fucking Las Vegas. Same thing with Orlando. Same thing with Los Angeles. Like, why are these destinations privileged? Why do people need to go there? What is the boost that is required, that is so great that cities that are always flush with tourists and people coming in to see the sights and take in the city, why would they be paying WWE, or TKO, I should say, to bring in their events? Is it really that much more? Do they really, really, really create that much more of a boost? Like, I don't get it. I don't understand it. I really don't. And then, as it says, they're very good at instilling fear, because then they get everything they want, and then they do whatever they want. They set, they probably set the rules, they set the table, and everyone just plays along. That's how it goes. I think it's preposterous stuff. I think there might be other things going around as well. Might be, some little underhanded tactics that may be, to help to help sway decisions. Little secret handshakes that may contain extra little things within the handshake that you can't quite make out and stuff like that. It's insane. It's really, really crazy. It's really crazy to me. Anyway, so I thought it was interesting to just point out that a lot of stuff that happens with TKO that we think happens is, starting to become a little more public knowledge. We're missing a lot of details, of course. We actually do see or, get some kind of like real testimony of what's going on. It's like we can only assume, or, we can doubt the validity of what's being told. But, we always kind of assume that there was some underhanded stuff happening, right? Right. Thank you for blessing me. I appreciate it. Didn't they sue Texas to suppress the numbers? Yes, they did. WrestleMania tickets are now on par with Wimbledon tickets. The difference here, like, to me, the main difference to me is that Wimbledon tennis, it's always been a rich person's sport, So then I'm like, it doesn't, like, to me, it doesn't shock me as much as professional wrestling. It's shocking to me because pro wrestling is not supposed to be designed for rich people. It's common denominator, it's lowbrow, it's blue collar entertainment. And I'm not saying that, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, because, otherwise I'm making fun of myself, I'm being very self-loathing, but that's not what I'm doing. I'm just like, that's how it always has been. That's how it's been designed, essentially, Mr. Warren Hayes, question: is it true that the women's wrestlers have to pay for their own gear for their Saudi shows? Because I saw a rumor that said that. I saw that too, and I don't know what the big deal is. I'm sorry to say, I don't know what the big deal is, because wrestlers all pay for their gear. Every wrestler pays out of their pocket for their gear. WWE, AEW, NWA, Indies, every wrestler pays for their gear. So, hey, Mr. Fretz, nice to see you, buddy. I hope you're doing good as well, man. Sorry about the Leafs. That's always the easiest thing you can say to someone from Toronto. Just sorry about the Leafs. Yeah, again, I don't know what the big deal is. Like, there's a lot of people who are acting like it's the end of the world. Now, I understand that there's a mandate in Saudi Arabia. I understand that there's a mandate in Saudi Arabia that, you know, of course, the women are going to have to be covered up to their fucking chins, right? You know, they can't show skin and whatnot because, you know, that's what a progressive, you know, that's what a progressive society allows, right? It's show no skin at all, right? That's what a progressive country does. That's very forward thinking with how they treat women. Anyway, so I understand, like, it's a mandate. It's a state mandate for the women to do this, right? But I mean, most of them going into the Royal Rumble, they're all going to make special gear regardless. They were all going to make special gear regardless, especially those who are going to have special entrances or are going to be surprises. Yeah, I mean, I understand that I understand that it sucks, but they all pay for their gear regardless. I don't know if unless there's something I'm really missing, because as you know, like I don't follow WWE really closely, so maybe there's something that I completely missed. There's something that I whiffed. But as far as I understand, there's like, I don't know. It's like there's precedent for this. You know, it's like the norm. And again, let's be real. Most of these women would all have new gear made for the show. They'd all have new gear made for the Royal Rumble. The men don't have to get special gear. The women do. No, I understand that. But that is independent as to whether or not they have to make the gear or not. Like the main issue is not the women have to pay for their gear. The main issue is the women have to cover up. You know, like I said, they essentially have to wear one-piece turtlenecks. That to me is much more cause for concern and outcry than they have to pay for their gear. I mean, the paying for the gear is par for the course. Like I'm just like, sure, okay. But the idea that they have to still cover up because, you know, a woman's body is, it's the fruit of all sin. That to me is much more egregious. It's much more problematic than, the women have to pay for their gear. They're going to have to pay for their gear regardless. They're going to pay for their WrestleMania gear. You know what I mean? And then you can bring the argument absolutely to say, well, at least when they do it for WrestleMania or for the, SummerSlam or, Great Balls of Fire or whatever the fuck, at the very least, then that's their choice to do it. I will concede that you are absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. So I could listen to an argument where someone would tell me, but okay, this is not their choice. This is the company that is working in this environment and therefore is imposing this expense on their female workers. So maybe the company should be shelling out some money. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me. But I don't see, the thing is that I don't understand the outrage over the fact that they have to pay for it. I think we're missing the point. It's not that they have to pay for their gear, is that they have to wear that kind of gear in the first place. We're missing the point. Does that make sense? Is this just like complete gibberish? Because I feel like I'm making sense. I feel like I'm making sense. I'm sure there will be men who wrestle in gear they've worn before. Absolutely. Yes. But then there's going to be a lot of them who are going to make their own, they're going to make new gear because it's the Rumble. There's gonna be people cosplaying as superheroes and all this bullshit, and they're never gonna wear that gear again. They're gonna put it up on, they're gonna store it away in the closet, and then they'll sell it on eBay in a few years when the contract when they lose their WWE contract and they spent all their money. So again, I can appreciate someone saying, well, the company is forcing this expense on their female employees. The company should spring for a percentage of it. They should cover it, or at least, cover 25%, 50%, whatever. They should, it shouldn't be only the women who pay for this. And I agree, but that's not the issue. That's not the main problem. The problem is that they're working in a country that forces this upon them. It's the issue is not WWE forcing the women to pay for it. It's WWE forcing their women to wear it in the first place. That's the issue. Who cares whether they're paying for it or not? The main issue is that they have to do it in the first place. I don't know how else to put it. Yes, but at least they're on the show. Oh, yes, look at our progress. Exactly. The women are basically under sheets, but don't worry, at least they're on the show. WWE should be pitching in to help with the extra cost. They don't have to, so they won't. But they should. So fans should speak up. Simple as that. I don't disagree. I completely understand where you're coming from. And like I said, I can accept that kind of argument, but fans should be speaking up that the women have to wear the fucking thing in the first place. That's the issue. That's the problem. If we didn't have to do that in the first place, no one would be paying nothing for a full body jumpsuits that hide all of your sinful curves. That's the thing. That's the issue. I don't give a shit about the pain. It's so fucking secondary because the issue goes beyond that. It's as if you'd say, I got arrested out of my home, right? By ICE, because I had left my door open and they came in. Well, no, the issue is, if I had closed my door, ICE wouldn't have come in. No, the issue is that ICE is in your city in the first place. That's the issue. It's not whether you're being arrested, whether your door was unlocked or not. The issue is ICE in your city. That's the issue. We're too micro focused when you have to stand back and look at the bigger picture. But at least women can drive there now, as long as their husbands okay it. This is always the part that they always leave out. The husbands still have to approve. This is the part that they all leave out. Yes, women can drive cars now, but only if the old man says yes. Warren, you're allowed to be outraged more than one thing at a time. Absolutely. Here's the thing. The thing here is that the outrage is not put in the right place. Because, okay, here's the thing. Let's look at it this way. If WWE flipped everything around and said, "Hey, we heard you. We heard the rumors. We heard you, and we want from this point moving forward, we will be paying for our female talent's gear when we have to go to Saudi Arabia." Does that fix the problem? Does that make everything okay? I would say no, because the girls still have to fucking wear the shit. Because the girls are still treated like a different brand of citizen. I don't think it fixes the problem. That's the issue, It's just we're not focusing on the right thing because the problem is larger than just this one thing, which also is a thing that just happens in wrestling all the time. It's not even a problem. It's just like the wrestlers pay for their gear. Now, if we wanted to have a talk about, $1 billion company should be paying for the wrestlers' gear to begin with, then I would absolutely agree with that. Just like $1 billion company should pay for their transportation and their hotel. It's like we can have the conversation on many levels as to what a TKO should be paying for its talent. The 1099 contractor would be the problem over the buying of gear. Providing gear would be a further violation, erosion of the shaky legal pillars they used to claim that the wrestlers aren't employees. That's probably, that makes a lot of sense to me. And that's quite likely a reason why they don't do it, to not create, to not blur the lines between contractor and employee. That makes a lot of sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. That problem will never get fixed because it's a religious... No, you can fix the problem. I disagree, Silver Apocalypse. You can fix the problem. Don't hold shows in Saudi Arabia. Problem fixed. Then the women don't have to wear the long johns ever again. I completely understand, and especially when we say, yes, you can be outraged at multiple things at once, and I agree. Like when you hear the news, when you hear the rumor, you go, fuck, this is stupid. That's exactly the reflex I had. I was like, this is really stupid. This is dumb because it's mandated. The company should be paying for their female talents gear. But then when you take a minute, you just step back and you're like, wait a second, that's not really the problem. The real problem is that the women have to make this gear in the first place, whether TKO pays for it or not. That's the issue. That's the problem. Who pays for it is secondary. The main issue is that they have to do it in the first place. I mean, the fix to this is fairly simple. Just don't hold the shows there. It's fairly straightforward, and we don't have to swim around and say, that this is bad and this is bad, and it's all bad. Vince liked multi-million-dollar payouts more than his talent. Wasn't Brock on his plane? Wait a sec. If I remember correctly, but Warren, did you think about the money? Convoy. I seem to remember Vince left on his private jet, right? He left on his own chartered flight. And I think Brock did too, right? Wasn't it something like that? There was talent on his flight with him. And I'm pretty sure Brock was there. And there might have been someone else. The commercial they made Bailey cut. They made Bailey cut about Saudi Arabia. But yeah, okay, so it was Brock, right? Brock wasn't Vince's, was on the jet. So Vince liked his money, the multi-million-dollar payouts, and Brock. He liked them both. And that about does it for another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Thank you all very much for showing up. Just one, before we go, one last request on my part to try and get you to leave a like or a 5-star review or a 5-star rating. Those things always help out, as I mentioned previously. I will be back tomorrow, Thursday, with the weekly AEW Dynamite review. So that's going to be right here and available for you wherever you listen to Warren Hayes. And also later on in the evening, we will be back on the YouTube channel for a live stream Thursday. And that's going to be, of course, tremendous. The Thursday live streams, they're awesome. All the live streams are awesome. I don't know why I'm trying to create some kind of special expectation around the Thursday. All the live streams are awesome. So hopefully you can make it. You can drop by. We'd love to have you. So there you go. And who knows what other surprises are waiting around the corner. I don't know. That's why there's surprises. There'll even be surprises to me. So once again, thank you very much for hanging out. Have a great rest of your week. And I will see you next time.